Welcome to I've Always Wanted to Watch That, a spin off podcast from the Average Joe's Movie Clubcast. I'm Justin Peterson. In this episode, I'll be talking with Jordan Puga from the Cinematic Underdogs podcast about a movie he just never has gotten around to watching. That is The Usual Suspects from 1995. Welcome, Jordan.
Oh, thanks for having me, Justin. I appreciate you extending the invitation to join you on this spin-off of your guys' podcast. So I'm definitely stoked to talk about a blind spot in my cinematic viewing history.
Yeah, former
So I
blind
appreciate the
spot.
opportunity, man. So is that again?
Former blind spot now.
Former blind spot. That's correct. Yes, I've rectified that now. So now I can join these conversations and not pretend I've seen this movie. So I'm stoked for that.
So tell me a bit about yourself and your life in movies.
Yeah. So as you said a second ago, I have a podcast with my co-host Paul Keelan, who's I believe been on your guys' show as well.
Mhm.
And yeah, it's called Cinematic Underdogs. We are sports dudes. We grew up playing sports together, and we just kind of relive our favorite sports movies, try to discover new ones, and just have the conversation. Is why sports movies are worth watching. Why they don't get a lot of attention the way more mainstream or Oscar we like to attend Oscar bait movies tend to get. So we kind of just want to give it a little space for the sports fanatics out there. We find there's just like comedy, I think there's a lot of sports movies that speak to the nostalgic factors, our childhood and whatnot, and we just kind of want to give a space for not us to talk about it, but people involved in that, and people who within the podcast landscape who want to lend their 2 cents. So yeah, we're always looking for and have various guests. You've been on there to talk about we did
Youngblood.
what's it called? Youngblood, right? Yeah, I remember you're an '80s dude on that one, which was an awesome conversation. So we're always just looking for other podcasters who are just passionate about movies and they want to lend their 2 cents to what sports movies they're into.
Yeah, I
Uh,
really enjoyed your podcast. It was Paul had just kind of reached out to me on the fly on Letterboxd and pulled me in. And yeah, it's cool that I met you on that podcast. We had a lot of fun jock talk kind of on
yeah,
that
definitely, right?
one.
Yeah, good little talk on that one. But yeah, other than that, movies has kind of just been my thing from childhood. My dad is a set painter, was his career for he's worked for all sorts of studios.
Nice.
So movies just kind of just always been like in the family kind of thing. So yeah, it's always weekend movies, going to movies. I've been on the lots back in the day as a kid and all that. So I've always been fascinated by film. But as a teenager, that became kind of my hobby, more socially watching them. And throughout my education, I
Mm-hmm.
kind of started leaning more towards literature, but I've always had a soft spot for movies.
Mm-hmm.
And I've kind of found a way to sort of balance those with podcasting and writing and teaching.
Okay.
So movies has been a big part of my life for sure.
Have you written much about film?
Yeah, tons of stuff in addition to Letterbox, a lot of stuff in college, done
Okay.
presentations on stuff on Memento, written a bunch about that.
Okay.
Tons of different movies. You kind of go down the list, but yeah, I'm always down to write about anything I kind of consume. I'm always down to write about. Yeah.
I'll have to track down some of that. I think the only exposure I've gotten is just on your the podcast so far. So yeah, to link up with you on Letterboxd. I wasn't sure if you were real active on there or not.
Trying to get more active on there. I've been throwing up a few, spending a little more time trying to get more reviews on there. But I gotta say, Letterboxd, like Paul turned me on to Letterboxd. I like the quality and like the variety of reviews
Oh
between
yeah.
serious, fun.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's really cool. I like the idea of just coming back and kind of seeing people interact with it.
Mm-hmm.
So I have been trying to get a little bit more into that in that particular like space of writing as well.
Yeah, it totally changed my life. I came onto it on 2017, and then in 2018, I decided I was actually gonna like log what date I did them, and so now it's cool to go back a couple years and see like what movie I watched on this date last year, and yeah, I just really enjoy interacting with those folks and writing as much as possible. I had always wanted to be a movie critic in some aspect, and I kind of tried my hand at it whenever I worked at a TV station. I did a blog movie thing, and just kind of did it in my spare time there. And I was like, oh, this is a lot more challenging than I thought. But then yeah, just dove into it recreationally, and started off with kind of simple reviews, and then got bigger and bigger. And a lot of people complain that I write too much, but man,
No,
it's
you have some of the better letterbox reviews. I got to go on a limb here. Like, you have some of the better ones. You have a good amount. You have a wide variety, and like
mhm.
you give good takes. And like I appreciate you put time into them too.
Oh yeah.
Not everyone does that, but like it pays off. That's what I'm talking about. It's such a cool like little community. Like if you're just a film nerd, you
Mm-hmm.
can find legitimate reviews there from people who aren't name brand critics who have just as valid opinions, if not better opinions, depending on how you want to go about that discussion. But it's there, and you're definitely up there in terms of reviews I seek out now.
Oh, I really appreciate it. Yeah, I've always gone about it of like I want to every time I watch something, obviously I have all these thoughts about it. And so I
Mhm.
just wanted a way to log all of that cuz I mean, I don't really have, like a buddy to like kind of go to the movies with to like kind of
Uh,
talk about it over like coffee afterwards. So that's kind of like what my venue or platform is for that kind
yeah.
of discussion. So, and then yeah, I got into podcasting. Yeah, I just heard so many other podcasts and was like, I like these, but these certain things annoy me. So maybe I should
Mhm.
throw my hat in the ring and see what I can do. So, you know,
Yeah,
it's
why the hell not, right?
yeah, it's a cool way to meet people. And yeah, the base because so basically this podcast, the spin-off podcast got started because Joey went on hiatus over the summer. And so I was like, oh, well, kind of want to keep doing this. But basically, what happened was we were having guests come on our bigger show, which our bigger show runs between 2 and 3 hours sometimes. So to like invite a random person on Letterbox on that was a little intimidating because they typically didn't listen to the whole show and know all the
Uh,
formatting. So there was a lot of kind of weird communications things we had to get down, and that was a little complicated. So I was like, hey, if I'm going to do this guest thing, maybe I'll just do a smaller cast, something real
mm,
easy to understand. Like we talk about movies, and then pick one to go into. And then I was just like, a really interesting concept to me is like that one movie on the shelf that's like always been there,
mhm.
but for some reason you've never watched it. Like for me, it's Sneakers. Like I still
Okay.
haven't seen Sneakers, but one of these days I'm gonna, grab that. And so it's like, I thought that was a really interesting concept to like, invite somebody that something they've never seen, typically something I haven't seen. I've actually seen The Usual Suspects, but it's been so long that I felt
Mm.
like it was apt for talking about as well. But yeah, that's the premise of the podcast. A new segment I have geared up for us is the Movie Question Blitz, which is 25 questions to really dig into your first reactions about these movie questions.
For sure.
So let's dive right in. Yeah, first thing that comes to your head, no biggie, no wrong answers here. So, what actor or director would you say you would be most interested in seeing a new film from right now, live or dead?
Mm. Right now. My go-to answer is always Tarantino. I'm a Tarantino boy. I'm a Nolan boy.
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna say Tarantino just because he threw out the whole "I want to retire" thing and all that.
Mm-hmm.
That was a buzz a few weeks ago. I'm behind on my Tarantino movies. I actually haven't seen Once Upon a Time in Hollywood,
Oh
so
wow.
that's gonna be new for me. I'm one of those rare like blind spots in terms of his movies.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I'm always down to see a Tarantino flick right off the bat. Tarantino.
Do you listen to Joe Rogan at
Here
all?
and there. Yeah, I didn't get to finish his interview with Tarantino. I kind of listened to he kind of did the circuit, the media circuit there, and I
Mm-hmm.
caught him on Mark Maron and one other one I caught him on. I'm trying to think, but yeah, I did catch a little bit of the Joe Rogan conversation. He's kind of said repeated a lot of the same stuff in each of these
Sure.
interviews, but there was a good conversation though.
Yeah, I just listened to it a couple days ago. So yeah, I've just got 3 hours of Tarantino. And then I just found out like the novelization of Once Upon a Time in Hollywood was actually voiced by what's the lady who was in Hateful Eight, Jennifer Jason Lee.
Oh yeah. Oh cool.
Yeah, so I think
Okay.
I'm not checking that out, but I'm just throwing that out there. All right, so what are some of your top comfort movies?
Ooh, it's a loaded word because like comfort can be so much with movies.
Mm-hmm.
My first one, I'd say Big Lebowski is a movie I could
Okay.
watch in any mood. Puts
Mm-hmm.
me in, like you said, comfortable setting. Doesn't matter how I feel.
Okay.
I still crack up at it. Another one I would say is actually for comfort movies. Pretty much any Marvel movie I'm finding
Okay.
at this stage doesn't really matter. I'm really a big Marvel comic book fan in general, but a huge Marvel cinema fan too. And like, I don't really have a favorite Marvel movie. I'm just a general fan of the whole journey. And
Mm-hmm.
I'm finding those are anyone I throw on. I'm usually just in the zone, cool with those. So Disney Plus is my background shit when I'm working all the time. So I always had, Infinity War, one of those 3-hour movies going on. I could just pop in my head and hop in this story. So definitely any of those Marvel movies are probably my
Are you all
go-to
caught
comfort.
up on the new series, the
Yeah,
Loki and all that stuff?
yeah, definitely dug those. I'm one episode I think behind on the What If series. I think
Yeah,
there's a
me
new one that
too.
came out last night. I didn't get to watch that one yet.
Yep.
I honestly wasn't a big fan of the first one because
No.
I'm a huge fan of the What If comics, and I felt like they kind of just
Okay.
pulled the reins on such a. They have a What If is just a freedom to do whatever the fuck you want, pretty much. That's the whole
Yeah,
appeal of
absolutely.
fans. We
Hmm.
love those things. Some of my favorites, like what Hulk could kill the Wolverines, one of my favorite ones. There's so many good ones, in terms of comics. So I felt like the first episode I thought was gonna really bring some heat, and it
Hmm.
was it had some great visuals. I gotta say the visuals of the costumes and everything were
Hmm.
cool.
Watching
Being
it
30
again, it
minutes,
does
just
kind of
kind
have
of
a
just being
comic
kind of
book look
rehashed
to
first
it.
Avenger kind of wasn't the greatest like introduction to something that could have been a little more original.
Hmm.
But I'm not like detracted for it. I'll watch the whole next thing.
Yeah, cool. All right. Streaming is just as good as physical media.
Yes, I'm a believer in that because I'm mostly streaming stuff now. Unfortunately, I used to be all about keeping everything in terms of movies, but over the years, I think I've just slowly gotten out of the habit of keeping physical collections of DVDs. I
Hmm.
have a feeling though, getting more as again like we talked about in terms of podcasting, writing about movies and stuff like that. You can see behind me I have a collection of a lot of Marvel toys and guitars and stuff. That's kind of catching my itch. Within the podcast community, all these people talk about Criterion collections and all that stuff
Hmm.
has got me kind of maybe I might embark back into that road, but I haven't pulled the trigger yet.
Gotcha, gotcha. Yeah, I feel pretty much the same way. I remember when streaming first started, like you had like VOD streaming from like cable providers, and the
Hmm.
quality was a lot lower with the audio being all
Yeah,
compressed and stuff. But now, like, you got 4K streams from Netflix, Apple, and stuff. I mean,
from
it's really
everything.
solid.
Oh yeah, and then like you
So,
said, with the HBO Max and Disney Plus putting movies out there where you can
hmm,
watch them from your home now.
yep.
I mean, it's a game changer. I'm all for it. I have all these damn streaming platforms at this point, and like they're putting out some like we just talked about the Disney stuff. They're putting out some high quality content that like is on par with what you go see it with at the theater, and you can watch it from the
Hmm.
comfort of your home, which is just awesome. I mean, as a giant Marvel fan, I never thought I'd see the day when there's so much Marvel stuff with such high quality. I still
Yeah.
am just mind blown by that.
Would you rather go to the movies or watch it on demand?
Movies.
Okay.
It would depend on the flick, but generally, I mean, I do like to go to the movies, man. I like the cinema. I love me some popcorn.
Yeah.
Most of the theaters have beer now, so you get the beer there too. Like,
Okay.
like it's like a baseball experience now.
Yeah. I had to go when me and my kids went to go see Peter Rabbit 2. We had to go to the theater because it was a Sony flick. Man, we dropped what, $80 to go see Peter Rabbit 2. I was like, oh, I did not miss that compared to like we watched Trolls 2. For I think we spent like $30 on that. So yeah, I have a home theater at home, so it's pretty nice setup. But I mean, yeah, there's a novelty to the movie theater as well. I mean, I'll never forget seeing Endgame in the theater and like people cheering and stuff.
Yeah.
I mean that's just surreal when it gets to that level.
Oh yeah. Like I mentioned Tarantino earlier. That was my first movie experience with the crowd going nuts, like during Kill Bill, like just like you talked about
Okay.
with Avengers. When characters show up in Volume 2, everyone was
Hmm.
just yeah. And that's the fun of going to the theater when you find those movies that really react to the audience and they can participate in it. That's those are great moments. Those are great cinematic moments.
Mine came with Inglorious Bastards. I saw it on
Oh
my
yeah.
birthday with a. It was totally a theater packed full of QT fans, and with that patience and stuff, it's always a little awkward to watch Tarantino movies with people that don't know what they're getting into, and they're like, "Oh my gosh, what?" I mean, like Jennifer Jason Leigh getting smacked around in Eightful Eight. I remember people gasping all around me. It's like, whoa, you gotta know what you're getting into with these QT movies
Yeah,
for
right.
sure.
Especially with the reputation like Tarantino just precedes him. Yeah, you
Hmm.
gotta know what you're getting into in that one.
Yeah, man. All right. So, how do you handle the "What's your favorite movie?" question?
Oh man, usually go for like genre.
And does
Is my
it
next question,
change
right?
when and what does it change when certain people ask you? This is something I've kind of questioned and kind of wrapped my mind around recently. Like for instance, I'll kind of set it up like I work with a lot of younger folks that have just graduated from college now. And to talk to a young female, it's kind of awkward to say, yeah, I'm a real big Clockwork Orange Fight Club fan. It's just like, that kind of makes me sound like a creep. So I now have the approach to where I think of a movie that they'll probably like and say think of a movie, like that's my favorite in that kind of realm, and just go with that. Because I mean, I have so many favorites. I mean, it's all still valid, but make it more relatable, and they'll actually hopefully talk to you more about it afterwards. So, sorry to bait the what's going on there, but any
No,
thoughts?
that's a good question. Because like I mean, like you said, that's why I'm still to come on here because I like the question you posed for this podcast. Because like you said, a lot of people change. Like as an English major, we used to have conversations about what's the book you tell people you've read but you never really read, kind
Hmm.
of thing, right? And it's what you mean. Like it's about
Mm-hmm.
there's a prestige to some of these movies based on awards, who's been in them, and just the way culture values them, right? And you just point out it shifts. Clockwork Orange and Fight Club are always on my top 10 list. They're not necessarily my favorite movies, but those are always on my top 10. I feel like
Absolutely.
I kind of do have a general like number one movie would probably be Empire Strikes Back.
Oh, there you
Um,
go. Hmm.
that's just the one that covers why I'm into science fiction, why I'm into fantasy, why I'm into really sitting down and watching movies. It's really goes back to Star Wars, but in particular, Empire Strikes Back, I'd say is the one that really stuck with me. So
Hmm.
that's my go-to, no matter who they are, how old they are, or
Yeah.
what their anticipation is of your answer. That's usually my go-to favorite movie.
Hmm.
That and I usually say probably like Big Lebowski or Memento are two of the more I'd say I don't like to use the word artsy, but when I really think about how film beyond how it just appeals to my joy and
Hmm.
how it really can be a medium of just so much expression, I think those two are the ones I generally kind of
Right on.
fall back on, and it could be either one of those.
I really need to get back to Memento. It's been too long since I've seen that.
Yeah, I think it's a highly underrated film, man. People, Nolan's putting out great stuff, but people forget that low budget classic.
Did you see Tenet?
No, I haven't seen Tenet, Interstellar,
Oh wow.
or Denmark. I'm behind.
Oh,
I'm way behind.
Dunkirk. Hmm.
Yeah, Dunkirk. Yeah, yeah.
All right. What is your favorite movie from your birth year?
Ooh, 87. I want to say Temple of Doom came out in 87. I think so.
Okay.
I'm gonna go with Temple of Doom.
Sweet. Yeah, recently on Letterboxd, my top four, I put since my 36th birthday's coming up, I put my favorite couple movies there from '85.
Oh, nice. What
What?
was your one of those that you put up there?
Oh, I put Back to the Future, Goonies, Rocky Four, and Breakfast Club.
Oh, damn. That yeah, I probably would have picked like Back to the Future for sure. Goonies definitely on there. Yeah, all great.
Cool. All right. My Roomba's talking. Gosh, it didn't say anything all night, and now it's talking. All right, what is the biggest movie rivalry you can think of? Now, this can be like, oh, we're action fans and we like this one, or we
Mhm.
prefer this one, or maybe a Best Picture like snub, or
Okay.
whatever comes to mind.
I think right now the go-to and it's an easy one, but it is DC versus Marvel across all platforms, be it movies, TV. It is an interesting debate because I'm a fan of both of them. I'm huge, like I
Mm-hmm.
said before, I said a couple times, I'm a giant comic fan. I don't discriminate. I like Marvel and DC. I just think Marvel is like kicking ass in that battle for
Yeah.
various reasons. I think DC is just unfortunately way behind on it, but I like the conversations because they're I mean, it reminds me of the back in the day when I was a kid, the conversation of which comic book is better. And, they even had the fight in 95, DC versus comics, and we got to vote on it. And I like that. Like I mentioned before, the fact that, like, these are giant billion-dollar properties that, when you're a kid, that, at least for me, they weren't that then. It was what you'd hope for, and they're that now. And that people who weren't that passionate then or didn't give a shit about it then or have kids who like it now or they like it themselves and they're very passionate about it now. And I think it's some of them are crazy about it for sure and a
Mm-hmm.
little like ridiculously ideological about it, but I do think it's really cool that this comic books hit such a mark with the mainstream and
Mm-hmm.
it's resonating and stuck around. So yeah, I'd say that'd be the go-to battle for me.
Okay. And shoot, Suicide Squad's a little bit of a game changer. I hope that DC keeps going in that, rated R edgy direction because, yeah, they can kind of be in their own niche there. It's not as profitable as what Marvel's doing, but I think people would respect them more because they've been kind of following in that Marvel, like track and getting mocked for it. So,
Except they don't do what Marvel does, where Marvel busts open the playbook. And I mean by that I mean they open up the toy box. They don't care about. They got all the toys. And they're like, we'll give you the toys and play with them. DC just wants to play with the same five toys
Mm-hmm.
and give you the same stories for the last decade. And like I say, I'm a big DC fan, but
Mm-hmm.
there's so many great characters that aren't even mentioned in these things that have just
Mm-hmm.
been skipped over or get mentioned they don't do anything with. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, I'll just go around. I didn't like the whole redoing the Justice League because the first one sucked and the other one just another 2 hours of like basically trying to re-edify your
Mm-hmm.
thesis of why my thesis that wasn't that good is a little bit better now. I've made it through it, but it's stuff like that though. I mean, it's this
Mm-hmm.
idea of going back and trying to do like some people say they're trying to do what Marvel does, but I feel like they're missing what Marvel does. Is the idea that Marvel is willing to unleash that box and let you kind of play with it, and they do, they control the shit out of their properties.
Mm-hmm.
But DC seems to have a very, I hate saying DC because I feel like even the directors who are getting these projects aren't doing the best that they can do with them. And I will
Mm-hmm.
say, Suicide Squad was cool. I dug it. I definitely liked it. It's not like how you put it. It could be game changing, probably won't be. I'll
Yeah, I
throw it
don't.
out there like that, right? It's a cool
Mm-hmm.
movie, but I think when you stack them against the other ones, like even within the DC canon, it's up there. But I mean, it's probably not the best one. It's cool.
Mm-hmm.
I'm glad it's successful. I will say that. I think they definitely need that. But I'm kind of of the camp like kind of just reboot it, start over. I don't really care at this point, like what they've already
Yeah,
done.
done with
Um,
Spider-Man. Why
I'm
not?
over the billion Batmans. I can care less about Batman and Superman at this point. Give me
Gosh,
Lobo or
what
something
what
else.
I would do for a Superman movie that didn't involve Zod or Lex Luthor.
Oh yeah, right.
Another some other Superman film. Like I guess we kind of got that with Doomsday in the one, but that was a little shoehorned.
Yeah, that was terrible. Again, you'll open a whole can of words with me, but like I do like DC. I want to be like I'm a hater of DC. I'm just like waiting
Hmm.
for DC to have that like that Marvel Eureka moment where really like it's this great synthesis of representation of what the comic book is versus what is asked of the audiences today. And I think they will find it. It's just not going to be in the near future.
Best movie villain.
Oh damn, that's a good one. That's off the top of my head, I like Anton Sugar or Sugar, however you pronounce it, in No Country
Oh.
for Old Men.
Mm-hmm.
I love his. I think he's one of the scary ones. We'll get into villains today, of course, with this movie, but I think
Yeah.
in terms of reputation, that evil Aurora, the idea of nihilism, all that, he really embodies all that. Yeah, I'll go with Anton Sugar.
He does it all with that haircut.
Yeah, that's right. He makes that bowl cut look intimidating.
Yeah, man. Do you prefer movies to be more subtle or more over the top?
Both. It depends. I don't think they should be either or. I think it really depends on both the plot, where you're
Mm-hmm.
going with the characters. I think there's room, like you say, movies can do both. Like,
Absolutely.
I mean, I'll go with Christopher Nolan, his Dark Knight series, both subtle and over the top. It's a
Mm-hmm.
spectacle, and it's more subtle than most, super movies you would come across today.
Mm-hmm.
It really is there. I think Nolan finds a great balance of doing both. He really gets more of a lack, or he gets recognized more for the subtleness and kind of showing the cards here and there, and
Mm-hmm.
people seem to hate him for that. But I think there's room for both.
That's a good
And I think
answer.
good filmmakers across all genres do that well, no matter what the genre is.
Can you think of a movie where it just went too subtle for your taste?
Too subtle. Hmm.
Or if over the top
In
speaks
some
to you
ways,
more?
this movie we watched today, and we'll get into it, is a little. It could have leaned on its subtleties a little heavier, and
Okay.
I'll defend that a little bit later. But off the top of my head, I will say Usual Suspects. Um, I think it relied on its subtleties a little too much. I guess I would say, yeah.
Okay. What's a rom com you could watch over and over again?
Hmm. Forgetting Sarah Marshall.
Okay.
I think I'd consider that a rom com.
Yeah, most definitely. Me and Joey did an episode on that one. That's one of his faves as well.
Oh, nice. I haven't seen it in a while, but
Yeah, I'm a pretty big sucker for some of those. I had actually hadn't seen The Wedding Singer until a few months ago for the first time, and yeah, that was okay.
I like
uh,
Billy Idol's cameo in that one.
oh yeah, on the airplane, right? When they're
Yeah.
yeah.
It's on Billy Idol, pal.
Top movie snacks.
Ooh, popcorn with the Nestle Crunches bits dipped in there, some butter.
Oh, okay.
Um, I already mentioned beer because every theater has beer now, so that sounds like their thing as well. And if they're nachos, they got nachos at the theaters. I usually get nachos, but you always got to make sure that the cheese is heated. I don't know if you
Okay.
ever sat down with the cold cheese and you're about to watch a movie. That's no bueno in my book. So just movie
It's like
going tip for me. You got to double check that cheese.
gotcha. Nice tip. What's a great movie you just don't like?
Oh man. That's a good question, man. That's a very good question. All right. Oh man, because it's hard ones. I'm not really like a hard like I don't like that movie.
Okay.
Okay, I will say this. Lord of the Rings.
Oh, okay.
It's not I know it's a huge fandom. I get why people like it. I've
Mm-hmm.
seen it. It's one of those ones I just don't go back to
Okay.
unless someone who's watching it hasn't seen it. It's one of those ones that like I don't dislike it,
Mm-hmm.
but I don't necessarily love it either.
Did you
Um,
ever read it?
yeah, that's the only one I read too is the Fellowship one, whichever one the
Fellowship. Okay.
first Peter Jackson was. Yeah, I read that one in high school.
Okay.
And that kind of yeah, just and it's interesting because I'm a big fan of like medieval and knights and all that stuff, but the Lord of the Rings didn't stick with me.
Okay. Interesting. Would you go horror or comedy?
Probably comedy.
Okay. What's the last great movie you saw?
That's a great movie. That's a toss up between. I thought No Sudden Moves was very good with Benicio del Toro and Don Cheadle this year. I was very impressed with that one, and The Green Knight. It's a toss up between those two. Those are two
Ooh.
more recent releases, but I was really impressed with The Green Knight. I don't know which one I like better though. I must say No Sudden Move. I will say that one threw me back to an era we're covering today, the '90s, in terms of. I mean, there was a movie about the '50s in terms of the filmmaking style and really capturing a period piece. I feel like that's kind of escaped us to some degrees. So yeah, I'd say No Sudden Move.
Yeah, I'm really
Moves.
looking forward to the Green Knight. Cool recommendation. All right. You get annoyed when it feels like a movie is talking down to you.
No, no, that doesn't bother me.
Yep, I relate there for sure. What elevates a movie from going from being great to one of your new favorites?
Mm, Great. So one of my new favorites. It's like because you want to describe it as like an aha moment for a movie, but it's really not that.
Mm-hmm.
It's like kind of like we described. It's those moments that stick with you and they stand up when you rewatch them.
Mm-hmm.
That's when I feel like a movie's really good. Is when you rewatch it
Mm-hmm.
and either it hit you the same or it hit you differently, and then it still moved you.
Mm-hmm.
I'll use an example like I mentioned earlier. It's like Memento. It's a movie that can be confusing, but it's one I've watched so many times. Each time I see it,
Mm-hmm.
there's a new element that adds a new meaning or cracks a hole in the way I watch it and just unravels. It's fun. And I think that yeah, it's something like that that really brings me back to it for whatever reason. And there's all sorts of stuff that I can do. It doesn't have to be clever. It doesn't have to be smart. It can be stupid, and it can bring me back to it and work. But it's that scene or technique that really drives me back to watch movies. I don't know about you. Sometimes I just watch movies for scenes. I don't know if you're a dude. Sometimes rewatch the movie, you kind of want to get to something. Sometimes I'll
Mm-hmm.
do that. Um,
Okay. It's interesting talking on Letterboxd with like people that have like a Kubrick list, but they haven't seen all Kubrick's stuff, and they're like going one by one or whatever, and they're like, "Oh man, this Lyndon, I was just so bored watching it." I was just like, "Man, these Kubrick films, they're growers, not showers." I mean, you really gotta. I swear, every time I watch The Shining, I must have seen it 20 times now. Every time I get something more out of it, so I totally
yeah,
get what you're saying there. Any
Kubrick's an
movie?
excellent example of that. Sorry, I said Kubrick's an excellent example of that. Always going to the well.
Hmm. Any movie pet peeves?
Hmm. No, I'm such a fan of again just construction of narratives and stuff.
Okay.
I feel like pet peeves, as a writer, pet peeves are a chance for the audience to learn. You kind of learn what your tastes are and how it's pet peeves teach or kind of revealing moments of how you watch movies. And sometimes your pet peeves can kind of show you, I'll use the word a flaw in our viewer experience. So I try to be as detached as possible when I watch anything. That's just me as a critical thinker, as a teacher. It's how I've been trained and how I try to train people. And so no, I really don't get pet peeves like in terms of like I understand people hate like dumb plot points, like things that don't make sense. Even stuff like that sometimes doesn't bother me. I'm willing to dismiss it. I'm very easygoing audience member for the most part.
Hmm.
I'm one of those persons who watch a bad movie from beginning to end. I'm not a dude who walks out, even if it's absurd. I
Okay.
can't think of a movie I've ever walked out on, to be honest.
Yeah, I'm
Yeah,
saying.
I'm usually there from beginning to end, even if I, quote unquote, don't like it. But yeah, I don't really have a quirk, I guess, in movies.
Protagonists that are unlikable. That's been something I've been kind of struggled to get around, and I'm. It just depends on what they are.
Mm,
And then melodramas like ones where the characters are getting really whiny about certain things.
Uh,
People whining gets under my skin, or people being real lazy gets under my skin. So those get to me sometimes. Uh, amb- Ambiguous endings are fun to interpret.
yes, absolutely. I'm a firm believer in that. I'm not saying ambiguous ending equals good. I don't believe that at all. But I do think ambiguous endings are fun to interpret because again, like I said, it really drives home the point of rewatching a text and interacting with it.
Now, in terms like, let's say you didn't get an ending, would you just kind of let it sit there? Would you kind of stew on it, come up with your own interpretation, and then just let it sit, or would you do some more research on it?
I'm a stew, sit, and talk about it. I like to talk to other people who, if you've seen the movie with other people, or if you're in that social setting, or even via social media reaching out. I'm a person who likes to talk about the ending, like give my interpretation, weigh against another's, and kind of have that either debate or like help each other like work through it. That's one of the reasons I like those endings again is those conversations that they just invoke. I think that's one of the best parts about an ending is I like when the movie theater when you leave and it's kind of silent
Yeah.
versus chattery. Because the
Like, what
chattery's
the
cool.
hell
Like
did we
that's Summer
just
Luck. That was
watch?
good. But when everyone's kind of like, you hear a couple people like, I didn't get that, or did you like that? Or
Uh-huh.
just quiet. Like with Green Knight, that was the last one. Everyone just walked out. There's a couple people like, what the fuck was that at the end?
Yeah.
It's like that, and I like that because that, like just to answer your question, yeah, I sit on it usually. Um, Try to think about it, come up with my little thesis or whatever, and then usually rewatch it if I have the option to, and then yeah, come back to it.
What's a movie you'll never watch?
Oh damn, I don't think there's a movie I'll never watch. It's in the sense there's probably a bunch of movies I'll never get around to watching, unfortunately.
Hmm.
But there's nothing I've been like I'm not watching that because its reputation preceded it for X reason. No,
Hmm.
I can't think of anything else. I think in fact I'm kind of dude if a movie has a bad reputation, I probably want to see it because of that.
Yeah,
So
same here.
you know,
That's a. I have a cringe. I call it my cringe movie bucket list on Letterbox. I have stuff like Salo and Serbian film and like Cannibal Holocaust. It's just I have this really weird like interest to see like how what can I take as a
yeah.
cinema movie. I know it's gonna be disgusting or whatever it's gonna be, but I was like, oh, I just want to say that I've done it, checked it out, check it off my list, kind of thing. So,
Climb that list.
what's a movie you'll never watch again?
Oh man. Same. There's no. I'm down to even like I said, rewatch a bad movie. There's nothing I'm not gonna come back to. Like I said, I've never walked out on anything, especially as like a podcaster who does like sports movies. I'm always down to rewatch something I necessarily didn't like, just to kind of qualify why I didn't like it.
Can you think of a movie that's overrated or and one that's underrated?
Okay. Um, Underrated. I'm gonna say Mortal Kombat, the original, just because
Okay.
I know we had a new Mortal Kombat recently, and I
Hmm.
think that one just maybe even double down harder. The 95 movie is an absolute game-changing classic, both in terms of video game cinema and its impact on the actual source material.
Down with
Um,
that. Hmm.
yeah, I can go with the whole conversation with that one. That'd be my underrated little gem. I think overrated. We're gonna get into it today. I'm gonna say The Usual Suspects. Actually,
Oh, okay.
I
Sounds
think it
like
was
we might like.
overrated.
Sounds like we might be on the same wavelength on that one.
Oh, for sure.
All right. So, you have a favorite foreign language film and any opinions on dubs?
Favorite foreign language film would be City of God, probably. I think
Okay.
that's my favorite one. And no, I don't really have any opinions on dubs. However I can get the media and consume it, I'm cool with. I'm not super particular on that.
Right on.
Um, I know people are a little more particular on that. But like, I really don't care.
Oh, yeah. Would you rather watch a movie from 2021 or a classic you've never seen?
Oh man, probably a classic I've never seen.
Okay.
Yeah.
And finally, number 25. We've made it through it. Do you like rating movies, and what is your preferred method for doing so?
I don't like rating movies because I'm constantly shifting my position on movies. I'll be honest.
Okay.
Uh, like for our podcast, we made the most ridiculous, rating system. It's not a good rating system. It's is it underdog or overrated or
Yeah.
underdog?
Good or bad?
That's one. Yeah, good or bad. Sometimes I do a grouping. Like I like to group things by genre and similarities. Like
Hmm.
we'll talk about with Usual Suspects. I kind of went to where is this rank among with Reservoir Dogs, with even
Mm,
Sixth Sense and Memento, stuff like that. I think those all have common threads and they're kind of working on each other. I think that's where my mind usually goes with that.
awesome. Well, thanks so much. I think our audience definitely has an idea of what Jordan's all about when it comes to going to check out a flick. After that, my guess is that you will never hear from him again. The greatest trick the devil ever pulled was convincing the world he did not exist. And like that, he's gone. Now we're talking about our feature movie, The Usual Suspects. The synopsis, courtesy of IMDb. A sole survivor tells of the twisty events leading up to a horrific gun battle on a boat, which began not long after the five criminals met at a seemingly random police lineup. The Usual Suspects was directed by Bryan Singer and stars Kevin Spacey, Gabriel Byrne, Stephen Baldwin, Benicio del Toro, and Kevin Pollak. Now, we have to make this note that this movie is slightly tarnished due to the unsavory reputations of Mr. Singer and Mr. Spacey. Should we get into the art versus the artist talk, or
If you want to, we can. I mean, I feel like briefly just separate them, and we can talk about this movie within that context.
yeah, I've always been able to easily separate this. I can acknowledge somebody's a creep in real life, but still,
Mhm.
you know, appreciate what they've done in the past. So
Yeah,
I never have those kind of hang-ups. So it sounds like we're on the same page there.
yeah.
All right, Jordan. What kept you from checking this one out for so long?
Because I would say because I am as an actor, a Kevin Spacey fan. Like you just said,
Oh,
despite all his stuff, like he was one of those first actors
like so you
who,
like you were saving it?
yeah, pretty
Oh,
much. I mean, this
okay.
is the one to put him on the map, right? But like I was going to
Mm,
say, he's one of those actors who really showed me like the craft of acting in terms of like seeing him perform. I was like, oh, like we discussed, like seeing him in American Beauty for me was like, oh, I understand why this is an Academy Award level movie.
mm-hmm.
That was like my introduction in terms of like the Oscar beat or whatnot, because as I said mentioned earlier. So yeah, I kind of put that one off because then I saw Negotiator. I was a big fan of him in House of Cards. He was really good in, so I was a real big fan of that Netflix series. So this is one of those ones that I like was mentioned on the list, on the radar, and just kind of just kept getting back and back. And also because Kevin Spacey got so prolific and he's himself was putting out so much stuff,
Mm-hmm.
like from Horrible Bosses, et cetera, like that. So I kind of found my way to him and other more recent stuff, I guess, and it just kind of got lost.
So Seven came out the same year. I'm seeing.
Yeah, I believe so. Let me pull. I had the box office up here because I do like to look at the box office for.
Yeah, 1995, 1995. Yeah, I saw like at moments like hints of like, Spacey. What how great he is in Seven. I saw hints of that here, which
Yes.
it's so strange in this movie because he's very inconsistent. But I think that's supposed to make sense because he's making it up on the fly. So
Yeah.
it's kind of weird. It's a flaw, but it's by design. But you don't know that until the end. It's
I like I like that you brought that up because like right away that's one of my things like I just mentioned. If you're familiar with Spacey's work and then you're seeing this like us again first time, it conflicts. It's not the best performance, and like I agree with you. I would say it's not strong. It doesn't work unless you know the ending, which I'll get into going over this. I know who Kaiser Soze is coming in just based on how where this movie sits in pop culture and
oh, okay.
significance of film, right?
Hmm.
Just get that out of the way. So I mean, as a again, just in context of this podcast, like having that all in your head within the first scenes and whatnot, you're zoning in on Kevin Spacey pretty hard. And unfortunately, I don't think the devices that are supposed to conceal the big reveal are placed or concealed themselves well enough to really work as like a double reveal. Like when you rewatch it, it really holds up. Because even
Hmm.
on the first view, the strategies used to again misdirect you and redirect you, they kind of
Hmm.
don't really work other than to just reestablish the way the plot's being told.
It's really busy in how it
Yeah.
approaches it, and it almost like throws you off so much that whenever it finally gives it to you, it's just like, oh, I think that was my reaction the first time I saw it. I don't think I remember watching this, but I just kind of remember the final moment being like, oh, well, that was it. Okay.
Mhm.
And yeah, I don't really get why this is like considered one of the like the top movie endings of all time. Um, Here's a couple fun facts. So in the lineup scene, it was scripted for it to be real serious, but apparently they were filming it for day after day after day. And against Benicio del Toro started cracking some jokes and farting and stuff. And you could, when I was rewatching through it, they kind of do break character a little bit with how Benicio is acting there. Apparently, Bryan Singer had the idea for this movie just based on like the poster concept of the guys up there on the what's it called,
The lineup.
the lineup, yeah,
Yeah.
suspect lineup. The title came from the famous line from Casablanca: "Round up the usual suspects," and all the actors were encouraged to ad lib because they were based on the perplexed reactions that they were able to conjure up from Benicio's very very odd performance. And gosh, what year did Fear and Loathing come out? Surely
It
that
was like
came out.
99. I might be
Okay,
wrong.
yeah,
Yeah.
because Benicio definitely feels younger in this one compared to Fear and Loathing,
Yeah. Can we
which
talk about Mauricio for a second? Like, what is up with his accent in this one?
I think what I heard was since he was kind of a minor character, I think he was compensating and trying to make himself stand out, and
Uh,
certainly does because you're like, what is going
yeah,
on with
what
this
what
guy?
fucking dialect is this? Is he Cuban? Is he Haitian? Is he like, what's he doing with this? Yeah, it's a really interesting one. Like, just like we said, there's so many big name actors in this.
Hmm.
Obviously this is where this is gonna be a starting point for them in the '90s.
Yeah.
And like you see, Del Toro, he's up there for me in lists of actors. I dig him in Traffic. He's
Hmm.
awesome. 21 grams. And like you said, this is a very small role, and unfortunately, like he can't do much with this role, right? He's kind of just has these small lines, and it is kind of the biggest problem with this movie I had is all the characters are so flat, from the main
Mm.
character to from Keaton to other than Virgil, or sorry, Verbal we'll call him. Other than those two characters, Kevin Spacey's character, who obviously is the rounded character for the big reveal at the end. Everyone else, for the most part, is very static, stationary. We're told bits and pieces about their past, but it's just their dialogue, and it's supposed to sound like it's supposed to make them sound like badass and cool, like they're
Hmm.
this ragtag team of like the Expendables. But I gotta say, it doesn't work. I don't
Hmm.
really care why this team came together. Like, even with the lineup, it takes a minute to realize that these are like professional criminals,
Hmm.
right? And by the time you get into it, they're so buddy buddy, and the conversations are snappy, and they work in terms of like the flow and balance. But they're so far off in terms of what they're trying to establish of these career criminals who would probably be a little more antagonistic towards each other, overcome that very quickly, and then they're kind of all in on this, like like these missions essentially that they're given through these contacts. So yeah, the way I get what it's trying to do, and like right away I go to like Reservoir Dogs, where it's trying to get that the cool. How do you make crime look sexy and cool, right? How do you make it palpable? And I think it failed in that. I think because Quentin Tarantino, man, he makes those fuckers in Reservoir Dogs look cool as fuck, walking in their suits, to some sick ass music. It's so choreographed so well, but it conveys so much more without words
Hmm.
that Bryan Singer's words just kind of fall. They're kind of empty, and they're not Singer's words. He didn't write the script.
Hmm.
But like you point
Disjointed,
out,
I would think.
yeah, just join. And it comes down because I like to point out like how the screenwriter and Bryan Singer, basically the screenwriter, was writing this for Singer to get this made. He basically put this together while working at a law firm or working for a law office, and a lot of this stuff on the ending was basically what he was kind of putting together in this little law work thing he was working out of. And I point that out because, like you said, the idea comes from a pretty simple concept of an image and these environments. And it's so cool. It shows you can write from everything, but it
Hmm.
also kind of shows it shows how detached the writers are from a goal in terms of plot and really unifying it. You see it kind of working out from something, which is cool, but it
Hmm.
doesn't really know where it's going, and which is why that ending has to be so punctual, right? And it's
Well,
unfortunate because the journey there doesn't warrant the twist, in my opinion.
kind of the wavelength I'm thinking now is it is very focused on Spacey the whole time because I mean he's the narrator or whatever. It's almost like you do have that through line of Spacey, from when we meet him as this. Oh, did you? Okay. Did you real? I didn't realize when I was watching it, but he's intended to have cerebral palsy. Did you pick up on that?
I didn't pick up on what disability. I just picked up more on the club foot, and it wasn't
Mm-hmm.
until really wasn't until he lights the cigarette at the end that I put together when he dropped the lighters in the end. They're trying to show, like you said, it's with his hands as well.
Yeah, his bum hand. Yeah.
I didn't get that though from that. I thought he was kind of clumsy.
Yep. And they keep calling him a cripple, so it's I just kind of thought he had a limp. But
Yeah.
kind of the way that I'm seeing it at this moment is like they have this through line of what they want to do with Spacey throughout the whole movie, but what they surround it with isn't as convincing. It's not I guess getting your attention as much as it should because I mean in watching this again knowing what's going to happen, all signs point right toward him, and it's kind of weird how he sticks out so much throughout.
Mm.
Let's go through it kind of bit by bit.
Yeah, sure.
Some of our notes. My first one is that is one hell of a piss to take out a fire like that. He's pissing off of the second story, and it's like a whole flood and perfect aim, and okay.
Talk about over the top, right? Like,
Jeez, yeah, absolutely.
I thought it was funny too with the music. The music always rises when the fire rises. The music in this one threw me off.
It did, yeah.
It was very '90s music, right? It fit in terms of the orchestration, what it's doing. But
Uh-huh.
right off the bat, every time there's fire or smoke, the same score comes up with it. I thought it's kind of cheesy, actually.
Yeah, I definitely remember that whenever they do the reveal of the boat being on fire. Yeah, the boat being on fire. They swell the music up. I definitely agree with that. Great use of I think my favorite part about the movie is probably the style. As a very noir feel. The transition, like I love the transition to the shaky paint can. That was fun. The camera's constantly zooming and panning. And there's a lot of overexposed lighting throughout. So yeah, a lot of like very noir stylistic elements. So I like the tone of it for sure.
Yeah. And like I agree, I think the scene when they're all standing outside of the police station, it seems like when they're all getting out, and we get those scenes where they're all on. It looks like they're supposed to be on various parts of these corners or on the same street, and they all kind of make eye contact, right? I really like the way that scene's just constructed. Again, like you said, the way we get back and forth movement, we get the scale of the street too, and that's one of those good moments again, kind of where the film I wish it would have done more, building the tensions between these characters without having to tell you so much. Because again, the dialogue doesn't really ring well in terms of building up the backstories. But I did also like the camera work, like you mentioned, with the gunshot scenes, like when they're on the boat. We have Alec Baldwin's character kind of deciding he's going to shoot the two dudes at the same time. I like the tension we got with that with the back and forth camera, like I said, a little handheld action there. There are moments like where really the cinematography really like shines in this movie. And those are just two that stood out to me.
Gotcha. Let's see here. Who would you say is your actually before I get to that, as we were talking about this, one thing that dawned on me was so the initial scene where we see them all like talking in the jail cell or whatever feels very stage play to me, which is where I was kind of getting with the how disjointed it is. I mean, each one of these are good actors and they present their lines well, but it just seems so awkward that they're all in this space, spouting off, whatever they have to say, and it doesn't gel naturally, I would say.
Yeah, I agree with you on that one. It seemed like kind of like that exposition dump where we're just gonna explain again like how we're gonna come together, little ties here. This guy has beef with this dude, but not really beef with this dude. So yeah, it was a really quick kind of threading in a weird way.
Who would you say is your favorite characters in this show?
Oh, okay. Let me put my actors list really fast. Give me 1 second.
For me, I would say I really like Pollock. Heard him on some podcasts recently. I really like Pollock, what he's all about. I'm thinking when I watched this, I was probably into Baldwin, but he was way like too much for me this time around. And I'm also a Dan. How do you pronounce his last name? Heydaya fan. You know what I'm talking about? He's the dad from Clueless.
Yeah, he's also in Night at the Roxbury.
Yeah.
Yeah. He's a great angry father character. His character acting skills are next level for sure. I agree though. I like Kevin Pollak just because I'm a huge Whole Nine Yards fan. So every time I see him, I'm like, it's Yanni Gogolak. But yeah, he rocks it in this one for sure. He doesn't have a lot to shine, but his delivery and like he's the one you really buy went to prison. he has that great line when they're interrogating. He's like, "You know what happens if you go back to jail?" He's like, "What? I fuck your dad in the ass and have a snack after." One of the best fucking like just hardcore like shut the fuck up pig lines. Like that was one of those ones that rang. You know, that was a
Nice.
great early '90s line. You don't get shit like that anymore in movies, right? Because I mean that's the point where this movie has like a crazy high cocksucker count. We'll call it in the first like 10 minutes, right?
Yeah.
That's like the go-to like bomb dropper, right? You call everyone a cocksucker. But his
Hmm.
delivery, though, I will say, like really rang like the idea, like I'm behind bars, I don't give a fuck. So yeah, I definitely was on board with Pollock from the beginning.
Okay.
I I didn't really like Gabriel Byrne in this one though. Gabriel
Yeah.
Byrne
He wasn't
has
very
such a
convincing to me.
prominent role,
Hmm.
but he's the one who should have scared you more, considering the way they're trying to explain that he's this corrupt cop and everyone who's tried to take him down has mysteriously died or disappeared. Like that's all they say.
Hmm.
And that's one of my biggest problems with this movie is the villains and like this idea of like yeah, it's a great question earlier, like who's the best movie villain? They don't build up me enough precedence for me to care about Kaiser Soze or Keaton as like these big hitters.
Yeah, I mean,
And it's
Sosa is
one of the biggest problems with this.
not
Yeah.
even mentioned until I think the half hour mark, and we don't even hear that Keaton might be like his number one suspect until the very end. He dumps that in all of a sudden.
Yeah, that's right.
There should have been a thread through the whole movie where, I mean, we know that the cop is out to get Keaton, but it's never really implied that it's never hinted at that it could be him. It's never hinted at it's really anybody.
Mhm.
So I mean, we're not left to be guessing who's that. Like I'm not really into like mystery films in terms of like the whodunits or whatever. Like I just kind of want the movie to give me what's going to give me. But yeah, it doesn't really kind of like you would think if this is such this great reveal, it would kind of try to throw different things at you and do it before the very end of the movie.
Yeah. And like you said, the corrupt cop just doesn't work like at all. That's
Hmm.
like you mentioned. It's a great point. It's supposed to be like a red herring, and I
Hmm.
never doesn't smell like a red herring. And that's one of the other things. Like, and that is a problem when you like just when you watch a movie that has such a reputation, like it's in pop culture. You know, Kaiser Soze is a known name. There's plenty of shows and stuff that reference it. So it is, you know, you do have to have that in the back of your mind. But I agree with you. Like the other elements of the plot that should really hold up, even if you know Kaiser Soze, in terms of still elevating the plot to the motivations of why. That's the other thing is why Kaiser Soze is so scary. Those motivations don't ring true because all those stories are told through Kevin Spacey, and he's already our questionable character. So if you already have a questionable narrator, like you just mentioned, any like narrative, any mystery buff or detective fiction buff, anyone who's watched Scooby Doo should
Yeah.
know that the untrustworthy the narrator can't be trusted essentially, right? And I feel like that's pretty clear just based on the way the cops are talking to him, the weird setting in terms of that's the other thing that kind of throws you off is the interrogations he goes through because we know he got immunity and we see him talking in this room for immunity, but then he's get thrown into the cop one. So again, it's this he's already kind of has this idea of like a snitch on him or whatnot.
Hmm.
So I felt like again, there's too much directing at him enough to I feel if I would have watched this without knowing that, I probably would have been suspect for the moment. And again, just being very blunt, for the moment when the cop calls him out and basically uses him as a suspect in like one of the first scenes, that was such a red flag. And anyone who watches these kind of movies kind of knows usually, for all Law and Order fans, you find out the killer usually in the first act, right? You're going to
Yeah.
encounter him somewhere in there, and the same things are at play here. They're not cleverly disguised either.
One thing I was really actually admired about the movie was kind of flipping back scene by scene. There's this moment where he's sitting alone in the office, and like I was like, why is the camera like going this way and that way? And it's his eyes searching for these little words throughout the whole office that he's going to use for this little fairy tale he's going to wield. But then is like so he comes up with all these random stories, like what about coffee beans and about some fat person at
Weird
some
noise.
point. It's so odd, and his acting seems so fake. It's like, I guess he's trying to come off as like he's this, this meek person, but I don't know. It was just, I guess he's like trying to throw him off, but the performance seems just so odd. And then I got a kick out of the fact that he's like so dehydrated, and then he requests a cup of coffee. I'm like, well, it's just gonna dehydrate you more, Mister Snot Piss Boy, or whatever he described it as.
That is a great point. because like I was thinking like with in terms of like you just mentioned with him, like the way they keep putting the focus on him, he's such a dead ringer for one thing. Like
Mm-hmm.
you're already in the know. And then the other thing for me was the names. They're so out there. The names he was using to tell his story, and I felt like those are really big clues to the audience that he's fucking with you, because these are
Mm.
names you make fun of. It's like we were making fun of Youngblood, right? You got some dude named like Redhorn or something like that in here, right? These are, it sounds like a bird, like a cartoon character, right? And he's talking about gangsters, right? He has this dude Kobayashi,
Kobayashi.
right? He's this English dude who's like a fucking badass.
Yeah, they
He's like,
describe him as a limey. They call him
yeah.
Kobayashi.
So I felt like right away I was like, these names are funny. They have a ring to them that kind of has humor too, which I appreciate. I think that's one of the better parts about it. But again, for the conversation we're having with because the highlight of this movie can't get around. The best part, the reason it's so popular is the ending.
Mm-hmm.
That's it. And yeah, with all those just big red flags, I'm gonna call them. I felt like you'd have to know, the technique, like you point out, and the way the camera goes to him. Even if you don't catch that he's looking at stuff. Film 101. Why do you get a close up on something? Right? It's something significant. And again,
Mm-hmm.
I really like, though, I gotta throw this out there. I do like the emphasis shot on the rope in the opening scene with the boat blowing up. That was one of the better question raisers. In terms of why are we looking at this? Obviously, it kind of poses the question of what's behind it. But I do like that as a starting point. And I
Mm-hmm.
wish we could have got back to a little bit different when we get to it. But yeah, I feel like that could have been a little bit emphasized a little differently or pronounced more in this movie.
Definitely runner up for best scene is when they do smash up that car and like put all the fluid on it and light it on fire. But the thing against it is like, so why do these random guys that are like in a cell together and then they get released like all of a sudden like decide to team up and take revenge on the cops? It's just very unnatural, a very unnatural team up. It's like, okay, you were the usual suspects and now you're out and now we're gonna team up and go do some shenanigans. Like what?
No, I completely agree with you. As I watched this, I kind of wanted more. I feel like if I was to make a remake of this movie, it'd be how do you make the usual suspects like a badass like crime team,
Mm-hmm.
right? I feel like that's like the angle when you're watching it like now, because like the goal is to see, I guess, who the who done it or whatever. But as you're
Mm-hmm.
watching it, there's so much like lack of character development that could be ripe for its own story. I think, yeah, I agree with you there.
Oh, there was Zed from Pulp Fiction.
Yeah, yeah, definitely makes appearance there.
Was that the one they called Redfoot? I forget. I mean, it's so
Yeah,
convoluted at that
yeah, it
point
was.
because it's what Kobe or so I didn't even understand the second heist to where they got drugs from whoever they like. There was like it was like a parking garage scene, right? And
Mhm.
like I'm not sure if they were ready for them, but they fought back, so they were mad and they got drugs. And did they think they were getting something else? I'm not even clear what was going
The
on
whole
there.
point of it was the guy arranged it so that they would end up killing the dude. And I agree, it doesn't make sense because he basically put him into a shootout, knowing they
Mm-hmm.
would win. And these
Mm-hmm.
aren't like assassins, right? That's my other thing is like they didn't really explain, like I thought they're just car thieves, right? I thought they had like a Gone in 60 Seconds thing. They don't really explain like
Mm-hmm.
why they're so good at what they do. Like why is Alec Baldwin rocking a sniper rifle and just able to take dudes out? Like is he like got like
Mm.
Navy SEAL trained? They don't really explain that at all. So yeah, I agree with you. It kind of leaves this weird like why I don't. And again, none of these dudes are action stars, right? So it's really, and sometimes it's kind of hard to buy into
Mm-hmm.
them being badasses, and it does
Gotcha.
work against the film at times. Like
I agree.
that when they're running around the boat, man, it's not the same as like Mergs and like Riggs and Murtaugh and Lethal Weapon running around the boat and Lethal Weapon
Mm-hmm.
4. That has a way different like weight to it. This one it plays out cool and it's orchestrated well, and you get to see the tension of what Kevin Spacey's character is doing, who's dropping definitely works. Uh, but the actual like presence of these guys are like ruthless killers, I just don't buy it at all as I'm watching this movie.
And one of the hang-ups for me was so it wasn't until I was making my notes for this and kind of going the key scene in this whole movie is when they're in the room with Kobayashi and he's explaining how they have dirt on each of these guys and
Mm.
how apparently each of them screwed over Sosa. Because I actually came into this like thinking about how I was going to talk about this film, totally not understanding why they had motive to go to this boat in the first place and what the hell the point was there.
Mm.
And it's all a revenge plot. And my attention must have just drifted at that moment because, I mean, it's real brief. I mean, they complain about all these folders and stuff, and then it's over. And then if you missed it, I mean, there's a whole chunk of movie here that you're going to be totally lost in. And that was the case for me 2 times until I really picked this thing apart.
No, that's a great point. I watched this one with closed captions, and I did a rewind more than I usually do because there are big plot points that you just said are just mentioned, and they're not really conveyed to you in a significant way that's going to stick with you. And it's the drawback on this. Even from the opening scene, you can't even hear the name Kaiser Soze verbally expressed very well from Keaton's character, right? You kind of like hear what he's saying, and that's crucial, right? Because that's a whole that's what's setting off this whole journey is who's this guy, and it's not really given enough like credence in the beginning. So I do think it works against it.
And then they come up with this whole like boogeyman story, which is like, oh, okay. Yeah. And then right after he explains this whole like, oh yeah, Kaiser Sose, he killed his own family, blah 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 blah. But in like the next moment, he's like, Kaiser Sose or whatever you call him. I'm just like, wait a minute, you just explained who this person was. Now you're like. It's just space is just all over the place in this.
Yeah, the story's coming from him, who again we're already questioning his reliability as a narrator. So you're already questioning whether the story's authentic, right? So it doesn't have enough if you think the guy's lying, it doesn't bring enough to build that reputation. And I think the other thing that threw me off, I just didn't like, is the reveal of the we find out they're on the boat to get an informant, basically the guy who can pin down Kaiser Soze, right? And that's the reveal that's supposed to make you scared because the guy's scared of Kaiser Soze. We have that it's shot well. We have a scene where we have the shadow like descending on him, and he's kind of like curling back, right? It's very, very gothic looking. But again, there's no reason for me as the audience to fear Kaiser Soze because everything has been told to me, displayed to me, I've seen, and I haven't, other than the reason that people say I'm scared of Kaiser Soze, as an audience member, I don't feel that way. Because it hasn't given me a reason to. It's not like A New Hope when Darth Vader shows up and chokes the shit out of a fucking rebel scum dude, right? Yeah. Breaks his neck. You have a reason to fear Darth Vader for the next, fucking 30 years or whatever they're on now, right? It gives you that. It gives you the motivation. Same with Anton Chigurh in No Country for Old Men. You see that first opening scene when he rips apart like a cop and stuff, right? The idea, even if you don't see who's doing it, right? The opening scene of the murder isn't enough to make you fear this person, particularly in the 90s. Right, coming out the 80s, big action movies. Now we're getting to this area with like movies like Face Off, Con Air and stuff like that. Big spectacle. You mentioned Seven earlier, right?
Exactly. All those murders definitely set an impression before we ever meet the killer,
right?
And we fear what they're capable of.
Yeah, and this one just does not do it. You're just there to get to the end, and I feel that as a viewer, a lot of the times you're watching, and again, it's one of the problems when you have a movie that's such. I'm not gonna say it's a good ending. We have a movie that has such a popular ending, right? You have to have that. That's how you're gonna view it. And I've watched, Sixth Sense and stuff like that over again. And Sixth Sense, I don't have this problem with. Again, knowing the reveal. Even some other M. Night Shyamalan films. This one, I feel like it works against itself when you're coming at it as an older audience, and even when you're coming as a first time viewer.
Man, they did Del Toro dirty there with killing him off screen and just barely showing him, I guess, dead on the beach. But certainly a sweet shot of them. They're burying him. They're like just kind of like digging in the sand, and it's like this cave, and it zooms out and it fades into a coffee cup. It was just like, it's kind of a bizarre transition, but also pretty sweet at the same time.
Yeah, there's good ones like that. Even when they leave the pier and it shows you like it's actually like San Pedro from the first scene when it goes from like night to day. That was a beautiful transition, right? And one of the few moments that really shows you that this is LA, which is another thing I kind of lacked from this movie, is a real sense of setting. A sense that
I think you see more in New York than you would do of LA, don't you?
Yeah, I felt like the city they're conveying. I didn't get a sense of like that gritty LA kind of like, especially on the coast and all that. Like, that scene, and this probably, again, is low budget. Probably more to do with just logistics and like just the way this thing's shot. There's not a whole lot of locations. But yeah, I feel like that's another area this movie kind of lacks, is just that authentic feel of Los Angeles.
And I was like, there's so many, like, I think we've mentioned it before, but there's so many little details throughout that it's kind of hard to keep track of things. And like Keaton's like lawyer girlfriend, like, it wasn't until I was going back through it scene by scene where I actually picked up the fact that So what? Keaton used to be a cop, and there's this girlfriend, and there's a scandal, and it's just so convoluted. It doesn't even matter. I mean, why learn more about that scene when it doesn't have any real bearing on what's going on?
Yeah, because the only thing that matters is when we get the moment where Kobayashi can use her against them, right? It's just another
Yeah,
vehicle to get to the idea again, building
yeah,
up
blackmail.
Kaiser Soze as this all-powerful dude who's the puppet master. Like trying to pull. That's the only thing it works in. Like, I'm glad you pointed out because, her character, I forgot her name actually, in this. Anyways, Keaton's girlfriend in this, the lawyer character, like we like you mentioned, we have the connection through Kaiser Soze, who's taken the angle that Keaton loves her, therefore he's changed. That's his communication to the cop.
Hmm.
Right? But to us as the audience, I don't think we don't get that connection in terms of like what their relationship is, because like we're introduced to them at a dinner, him pitching something about a restaurant,
Hmm.
and like her saying like, oh, don't worry about it, I'll make this go away kind of thing, right? And then
Hmm.
like you said, it's supposed to seem like she gets him out of jail, right? It's
Hmm.
all very convenient, but like we're pointing out, it's all just to get these guys in a room together.
Hmm.
It's all to get these guys in a room with this guy so they go to mission here, right? Which
Hmm.
I see, I feel like you can see how it kind of comes out of the idea of the plot just unfolding. And you need characters to have them. And she's just a functional, that's all she is. She's just functional to get you from point A to point B, pretty much.
And how on earth would Verbal have actually even constructed this lineup? I mean, what he like? I guess it's the only way to that would have actually happened is if he would have like bribed the police. Because I mean, obvious we know it's a corrupt police department. Because I think I was reading that like they arrested like 50 cops or something, and whatever that little the jewel heist corrupt cop ring or whatever they expose. So I wanted to get into the climax now.
Oh, sure.
So I was rewatching that, and I'm a big action fan, and I'm watching this, and yeah, there's a lot of good shooting here and there, and you see a little bit of gore when some people get hit, but it just seems it's very kind of all over the place to where I mean, even once they get to like the core of the boat, and Keaton's like, "There's no dope here. There's no dope here." It's like, yeah, I kind of got that sense that they were kind of wandering around aimlessly at this place with no real direction. Like you had mentioned Lethal Weapon before, where always Briggs and what's the other guy's name?
Murtaugh.
Murtaugh. I mean, they always know exactly what they're headed, and we follow along, and it's a great action scene because we know what's going on. But this climax is just so all over the place. I mean, we're here shooting, we see this guy scared in the basement of the boat, and then we cut back to the doggone interrogation. I was like, oh, well, that's a way to break up a doggone action scene is cut back to this random story instead of letting it play out.
No, definitely. And then the other thing with the action sequence is the emphasis of going back to Kevin Spacey and then back to people who die. And then back to Kevin Spacey, right? And just like emphasis on where he's at.
Mm-hmm.
But then when the reveal comes, we find out he's still working with this Kobayashi dude. So it also creates this weird sense, even when you go look back to it, of terms of like just like you point out, him being the puppet master isn't actually that big of a deal if Kobayashi's a dude capping people. And then just drives him away in the end. He's still his employer. I get all that. That still works out.
Was
But then
Kobayashi there at the finale?
he takes him. He's in the car that he gets into, and then we see
Right.
Kobayashi from his perspective when he's telling it. He says, "Is Kobayashi doing it?" That's up in the air because obviously we see him come back to him shooting him. Could be it. But then the question raises, because we don't actually get the confirmation cuts of him going around and shooting all the other people, just Keaton, which is my complaint, right? Because then it's the idea of like, I get the idea that he did it all, he's behind it all, but we're going into the idea of him picking off one of these people one at a time within the mission, right? We don't actually get that confirmation. It's in my view, it's still alluded to that Kobayashi did pull those triggers on those people, which still is like, they know Kobayashi's a dick and he's gonna kill him, so it still kind of just doesn't, like you said, doesn't function very well in terms of it being a plan, it being a suicide mission. All there's a lot of loose ends in that closing scene that just don't resolve. I'll be blunt, they don't really tie off well.
Are we meant to assume that Kobayashi's the guy in the trench coat?
Yes. Well, I'll put it this way: yes and no, because that's my point. Is we know he's the guy in the trench coat who at least shot, it says in that one scene, who shot Keaton, and we're supposed to believe he's watched it from there. But then when we get the reveal, we see it's replaced with Kevin Spacey's character shooting him, so that's supposed to, like you said, be him.
Oh, right, okay.
Right?
Yeah.
But that's my point, though, is if it's him there, did he shoot everyone else? Because, like I said, Kobayashi picks him up still in the fucking car. So it doesn't answer the question, like, clear enough for me in terms of the mechanisms of how this actual, like, heist or whatever you want to call it is successful. Because he gets away. We get that. He gets away. He fooled the cops, all that. Yes, that works. He told a good story. But when you really break down the plot, like you're pointing out, if you really tie it together, it's still questions that could have been answered again with the quick flash. Only the way they answer questions is just quick flashback. Kevin Spacey dressed in black that we saw in the beginning, right? But it's just that one scene. I feel like the insinuation is he killed all these people that he was with, right? But we don't get that, right? We don't know who stabbed Alec Baldwin's dude in the back of the neck. We're supposed to assume it's him, I guess, right?
Yeah.
Or right,
and then that's the big indicator that we're dealing with an unreliable narrator whenever he's describing the scene, looking at the so-called Kaiser Sose dealing with Keaton, but then I guess in actuality it was him. Yeah. Yeah, it's kind of like we're saying, it's all over the place. It's really neat to see that we're actually on the same page with this and kind of walking through it together, and bringing our own little thing into basically the same conclusion. It's pretty cool that we, I mean, we just discovered that we both have the same approach to the film.
It's reassuring. I thought I missed a lot too. So, like you said.
Yeah, we were filling in the gaps for each other. Very good, very good. Anything else you want to say? I thought I had one more thing I was going to bring up.
I'll throw this out to you just because I'm curious. What's your favorite Bryan Singer movie?
Days of Future Past.
Ooh, baller, man. Baller.
Yeah. I think the original X-Men doesn't use enough like characters like that, would be. I mean, there's some solid characters in it, but I'm really bothered that the original 3 X-Men are all about Wolverine. That just bugs the heck out of me. I'm more of the X-Men as an ensemble instead of the Wolverine show. Yeah. But then finally in Days of Future Past, they use him really well to where there's a lot of good elements around him. The story's still like, from his POV, but like I said, everything works well around him.
Yeah.
So,
nice.
I didn't really, I'm not sure if we want to get into Bohemian Rhapsody. I mean, I didn't mind that movie. I'm not sure how much of that he directed. That was kind of his downfall. Do you have a solid answer for this one?
I was gonna say Days of Future Past, but that's recency bias because I did watch it again. That's definitely one of my favorite ones of his. I would say X2 is the other one that goes up against. I like X2 a lot.
Mm-hmm.
I haven't seen Bohemian Rhapsody yet. I think the only other movies I've seen from him are all his X-Men movies. Oh, and House. I was a big House fan.
Okay.
He directed a couple of those episodes.
Oh, I didn't realize that. Cool. Yeah, I was thinking there was something else here to talk about at the end. I mean, whenever you do watch the end reveal of like him walking down the sidewalk and all of a sudden go from this limp to a stride, I mean, I guess you're really supposed to get goosebumps there. I mean, I kind of saw how like that's really well constructed, but at the same time, we've both been ranting about this whole time. It's just not build up in a convincing enough way, especially on a rewatch for. I think on initial viewing, most people, I mean, so much of the stuff is so underplayed and convoluted to where you're like, oh, it was him the whole time. Huh. I would have never guessed. Yeah. And then on the second watch, you're just like, well, that wasn't built up well at all.
I think it's because the theme of looks can be deceiving, essentially, or underestimating one's appearances. It's actually a little overblown by the time you get to the end. In particular, the way the crew always ostracizes Kevin Spacey's abilities and who he is, the way the detective always ostracizes him and constantly says he's crippled and that's the reason they are. Like, just like you said, I felt like because of all that, I felt like I was already being groomed to like know that this is the twist. He's the one you shouldn't underestimate, right? And and like you said, the goosebumps, like what you should get is goosebumps. And again, like the moment I mentioned when they drop Kaiser's name on the boat and stuff like that, with the dramatic music and whatnot. The cues don't work. They don't line up for me. And it seems like it doesn't line up for you. It doesn't work like the way, like, the appearance of Thanos and stuff, like the way his reputation precedes him, where it's like when he finally shows up and does something cool, you're like, okay, he's the real deal. He fucked up the Hulk Thor. All right, we get what he's doing. this is like when that reveal finally comes, you're just like, oh, it's just wrapped up, and that's unfortunate. It's more of a wrap up really than a reveal,
Mm-hmm.
because even the way it's undone, right, with the cup shattering, it's very metaphorical, right? The shattering of expectations, the way the movie
Oh,
itself kind of is
it's a fun
scattered, right?
point.
There's a lot of stuff you can break down visually, I think, with that, which is cool.
Mm-hmm.
But whether or not that is enough to make this movie warrant the stats it has, I disagree with.
The sketch of him is really cool, and then yeah, it's just so inconsistent. Like there's these moments where he comes off so fiendish. Like even in that police lineup, he steps forward and is definitely the most menacing. But then he has some of the most pathetic, like crying moments to tie him back into like this helpless cripple. It's just it's a little too messy for it to all seem believable. I guess that would be my final thing to say about it. Great stylistic elements, really solid cast, but yeah, the story just doesn't come together. So I would, in letterbox terms, I would rate this at a 3.5. I think it's a really good movie, but it wouldn't be an excellent.
Yeah, that's a fair rating. I'd give it a 3. If I was writing a letterbox review on it, like you said, it's definitely one I would say I'm gonna be like, don't watch this movie. I do suggest this is a movie worth watching if you're a
Mm-hmm.
cinephile. It's on those lists for a reason. It's like I found this helpful in terms of positioning a lot of these other movies I've mentioned that during discussion and where they fit within this canon. Of like you said, this is not a trendsetter. This falls within a pattern of trends already preceding it.
Mm-hmm.
I just think it's got the most prestige, and again, it's just worth watching and really seeing the positioning of, again, like we talk about, the starting from the beginning and end, a classic trope in the '90s, maybe a little overdone. Some do it better than others, right? I think this is one of those ones, if you're just interested in like examining movies, this is one that has a lot of stuff that works and a lot of
Mm-hmm.
stuff that doesn't, and
Mm-hmm.
it's good. Right, it's a really good balance of just seeing like how far even Bryan Singer, as both a director and just a visual artist, has grown,
Mm-hmm.
um, over these last years. And yeah, like we just mentioned, like the performances. That's probably the thing I liked about this. It really helps you appreciate some of these big actors where they've gone since this.
Mm-hmm.
Like we already talked about Del Toro. I mean, he just has so much range. You're not going to get it from this one, but you'll get to see those instances of Kevin Spacey where you're going to get with Seven. Yeah, so from that range, I think it's worth watching from a historical lens.
And that guy who plays Gus in Breaking Bad, who
Yeah,
is the
he's in it pretty cool.
detective, yeah, he should have had a much stronger role. I mean, he has like the hat, and he's like smoking in the hospital, very noir, very atmospheric, and he's kind
Yeah.
of brushed off to the side, unfortunately, because yeah, they just don't focus on this victim as much as probably what's needed to build up Sosa.
Which sucked because the story of the Hungarian dude who's like the one who says Koza's name, Kaiser Soze's name and all that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I wanted more of him. I don't know
Mm-hmm.
how they got into, but I felt he was one of those like ones where I felt like we were talking about like tone and all that, where I felt like I was in a gangster movie, right?
Mm-hmm.
Where I feel like this is where the danger comes. Like he was the only character who really sold me on this like idea that Kaiser Soze is a dude you don't want to fuck with.
Absolutely, definitely, well said. Cool. Well, thanks so much for joining me, Jordan, on this second episode of the I've Always Wanted to See That podcast. It was fun exploring this, and I think I have a whole new, no, I wouldn't say appreciation for the film, but a validation of my opinion
Yeah,
based on the
that's a good
fact
way to
of how
put it.
we piled it together. So, how do people find you on the interwebs?
Yeah, for sure. Again, thanks to you for having me on, Justin. This is a lot of fun. I mean, I always like down to talk about movies. And thank you for introducing me to a movie and, help me knock that off of my blind spot. If you want to find me, you can find me on Twitter on at Cinematic Underdogs. We have our little Twitter up there. You can also find us on Facebook if you just search at Cinematic Underdogs. We're also on anywhere you find our podcast, the Cinematic Underdogs, on iTunes, Spotify. You can find us there. And you can also find me on Facebook. Yeah.
Awesome. Please follow the Average Joe's Movie Clubcast on YouTube and look for Justin Peterson's letterbox reviews I write daily. Have a great day, everyone, and keep watching movies.
Peace.